Hey guys, in this video you are going to learn how to design a complete weather app. In this video we are going to have a background image and lot of different options designed within the GUI of Python. You will also learn by clicking on a button how you can submit the entered data into an API and fetch the data back to your Python GUI. Overall, this is going to be an interesting content. So let's get started. Alright, the very first step is to look at the expected graphical user interface in Python that we are going to design. This is the GUI of the application. Now to design this layout, first of all, we have to import a specific library. So let's get started by importing the library whose name is Tkinter. Now what is this Tkinter? In this, TK stands for toolkit and the inter stands for interface, like graphical user interface. Okay, using this toolkit interface we are going to design our entire application. Now let's get started. Now the very first thing, if you look at the picture, the outer frame of the application, to design the outer frame all you have to do is simply write root. Root is nothing but it's a simple variable which is going to hold this outer layer information. Okay, it's just a variable. Now for this, simply use this library called Tkinter toolkit interface dot. I have to use a very specific class from this Tkinter. So what is this class? This class is going to help me to build a outer window. Toolkit, TK stands for toolkit, remember this. So toolkit means it will have multiple different things inside that. That means you can have a text box, you can have a drop down box, you can have a label, you can have a header created. So all of this can be designed using this toolkit class. So it's a kind of a package which contains everything. Okay, all right. Now let's write something called root dot main loop. So what is this root dot main loop will do? Let me show you. When I run it, you will get an understanding. So what happened, just by writing this 3 lines of code, a window got created. A window got created. Now this main loop, what it does, it will keep the application open unless you close it manually. For example, if I don't write this, here in this line number 3, the application window is getting created, but again it is ending, the process is getting ended and you are not able to see the application. That's why what we have done is we have written this root dot main loop so that it puts everything in a loop and the application will remain on as long as you don't close it from here. Getting it? All right. Now if you look at, our application has a bigger window. So let's set the geometry of the application to this specific size. To set that, all you have to do, take the variable. So what is the variable which is holding this application window? Root variable, right? Root variable is holding the application window. So I'm going to say root dot. Then I have to write a very specific function called geometry. In this, I can mention my dimension in pixels. For example, the width I would like to keep as 500 pixels, small x. Okay, here you have to type the keyboard. On your keyboard there is a x symbol, right? So type that and type 600. Now just by doing it, if I'm going to rerun this particular window, you will see I have got a similar window what I wanted, the expected kind of a window. We got it. Okay, so this is the window, we have got it. I am fine. So step by step we are going. So now let me ask you this question. Do you have any doubt in these lines? The very first thing, we have imported the library. Next thing, we are creating a window, blank window, and we are putting inside a loop. And now in the fourth line, we have described the geometry of the app, how the moment you open it, how it should open. So you saw the output. Okay, now the next thing, we would like to have a title. Do you see the application has a title called My Weather App? So let's have a title. So how do you create a title? Again, it's simple. I will use the root dot title function, and inside this I'm going to write in double quotes. So I will say my weather app. Clear? Now let's rerun this. So you can see the window with a title has appeared. Getting it? The window with a title has appeared. Now the next important thing, how do I get the background image? Okay, so till now everything is fine. It is gray in color. I would like to have a background image for this. So to get the background image, first of all, let me locate the picture that I would like to place in my background. In case you do not have, download any picture which you can apply to your app. Inside my project file, I have kept this app underscore image. This is the image which I have downloaded and I've kept it inside my project file. You can keep it anywhere you like, but it's good practice to keep it inside the project folder. Now I'm going to hold the shift key, right click on this particular image, and I am going to get something called copy as path. So let's copy this, go to PyCharm and start implementing the image. Now to implement the image, it's quite simple. First of all, let me create a variable called image path equals to, and this is my path where my image is there. Clear? So this is the path where the image is there. Now if you see, the moment I hit on enter, it gives a error. What is the error? Anytime I'm using a backward slash, that means when I have to write, if I say print a new line, you write backward slash n alphabet, that's for a new line. Similar way, here if you see, it has got a backward slash. Now to avoid this kind of a problem, I have to simply write something called R. R stands for regular. R stands for regular. Now that helps to let Python know, even though there are backward slashes, do not consider it as escape characters. The technical term is escape character, like slash n. You write, right? While printing you write, do you remember? Slash n. This is a escape character. So do not consider anything in this line as escape character. Consider it as a regular string. That is why we write a R. So we got this. Now this is just a string variable which is holding the path. Image path is a string variable. What I want here is, I would like to create a app variable. Like this is the application we are creating, right? So for that we have to import another library from Tkinter. So I have to say from Tkinter import photo image. The class name is photo image. So from Tkinter import photo image. Now this photo image will help us to set a background image for our app. Remember, this photo image is going to help us to set a background image. Now I have imported. Now how do I really use it? So let me say background, I will say bg underscore, I'm going to say image, bg underscore image equals to, I'll use this photo image class. Inside that I am simply going to write file, where my file is. So the file I have kept in this image path variable. So in this line, what exactly we are saying? We are saying create a background image variable which is supposed to hold the entire path. Now this is a string variable. Okay, for example, if you print this, you will understand why am I really doing this. For example, if I say print and I'm going to say image path, what kind of a variable I would like to know. For that you will simply say type. Okay, so here at the end I'll put another parenthesis. Now what is the type you will get? The image path is a string type of variable, wherein if I'm going to use the same print command and say type, and I'm going to type the background.image, you see the difference. So if I run this now, so what is happening? The background window anyways got created, but again if you see the print here, the first one is a string kind of a variable which is holding the string, and the second one is a Tkinter photo image class. This is a Tkinter photo image kind of a variable. Getting it? Now for our app, what is our aim? Our aim is to have this background image created inside our app, right? So for that we need to have a variable which can hold that photo image for the app. So this is the variable we have created using the photo image class. Okay, so let's omit this print lines just to understand, okay, why am I creating two lines of code. Okay, so this much understanding we have got. We have created a variable which is now capable of holding an image. capable of not holding a string, capable of holding a image, a file, image file. Okay, all right, let's write the next code. Now we would like to target what? Our root application, right? So this is our root application which is currently blank. This is what we would like to target, and this entire application window is carried by the variable called root. So I would like to target there. So for that, let's write a variable. I am saying background image set. I would like to set the background image. So I am saying, or you can write proper variables so it becomes easy to understand. So I am saying set background image equals to, I'll use the Tkinter class dot label. Now why I'm writing label? This image we can place it as a label in the entire application window. The image we can place it as a label in the entire background window. So how to do that? Let me write the code and I will explain. So where I would like to keep it? Inside the root. I would like to keep it inside the root, and then I would like to send this image which is currently available. I'll use this image parameter available under the background image variable. So what is happening now? Look at the line. I am creating a variable which is going to create a label where inside the root, and it is going to use the image which is kept inside the variable called background image. Now once I set this variable, so what is the variable which contains that label? Set underscore background image. I am going to say place it. Okay, where I want to place it? I would like to place it inside my app. I would like to place it inside my app. Now to place it, there are two different parameters that you have to remember. How would you like to place it? Your relative height should be 100%. For 100%, here we write 1. For 50%, 0.5. If you want only half of the picture, 0.5%. I will show you this. Let me write 1. Relative height of the picture should be 1, comma. The relative width of the picture should also be 100%. 1 means 100%. Okay, so now let me run it. You will understand what is going to happen if I am going to run it. Let me stop this, run it again. Okay, now what you saw, do you see the entire image now has been placed as a label in the background? Okay, so this is the code, this is the 2 line of code we have written to set the image in the background. 4 lines of code. So let's recap again. We saw the final output, how it has appeared, final output appearing like this. So what we have done, the first thing, we have got the image path where our image file is available. Next thing what we have done, using the photo image class, we are creating a variable which can hold a image, like a variable which can hold a variable. Similar way, we have created a variable which can hold the image simply by writing photo image file equals to image path. We created a variable which can hold an image. Now what we have done, we created another variable stating which can create a label inside the root. That means within the app it can create by passing this image variable to the image parameter. Now once you have written the code, this code is not enough. You have to place. Now this variable is holding. You are not placing it inside the root, just that you are saying the variable will have this value which can place inside the root. Now to place it, we have to write a very specific function called dot place. Dot place with a relative height of 1, relative height of width of 1. Now let me explain this. If I am going to write 0.5, okay, just the height I am saying 0.5. Now look at the app. Now it has got full image, right? If I am rerunning this specific one, so what happened? Because I have mentioned 0.5, the height of the image has taken only 50%. Do you see? It has only taken 50%. Similar way, if I am going to make it 0.5, the width. So what would happen if I am going to run it? See, the width also taken only 50% size of the window. If you maximize this, you can see it has taken 50% of the height, 50% of the width. Similar way, you can, if you need an image like that in a corner or something, let's say I want to have the relative height as 0.3 and the relative width as 0.5. Now what would happen? Now the background image is set to a corner. Do you see? It has been set to a corner. Let me rerun it. Okay, the width is 50%, but the height of the app is just what happened? Only 0.30%. Getting it? So here this 0.3 means 30%. If I'm writing 1 means 100%. Okay, so keep it to 100%. We'll keep it to 100%. So now what we have achieved is we have achieved setting up the background image. Next, we would like to design the header of the application, which is my weather app, with a rectangular white box, right? There are a lot of features that you need to look at, and also the text is in blue in color. So how to achieve that? Let's see it. For that, every time you are creating a new element, you have to create a variable. So what is the variable name we should keep? We'll keep app header equals to, I'm going to use the Tkinter module. So remember, every time we are using this Tkinter module, okay? Tkinter dot, I'm going to create a label, right? So I'll say label. Now label has been used for a image. Here we are going to use the image for the proper label for a text. So here I'm going to say root every time. So remember this, most of this syntaxes will be repeated multiple times. So if you remember one syntax, you will be able to remember rest of it, because most of them are similar. Now here, because it is a label, I'm going to pass it to a text parameter. What is the text I want to show in the app? My weather app. This is what I would like to show. Now once you have written this, once you have created this variable, next what we have to do with the variable, use the variable and say pack. Getting it? Use the variable for a image you said place. Now for a title like that you have to say pack. Now let me run it and show you how it appears. So if you see, my weather app has appeared, but again it is quite small and it is gray in color. The text is in blue in color, wherein what we are expecting, we expect something like this, but what we have got something like this. So now in this line number 13 and 14, we have to make certain modifications so that we reach to the expected output. This is the expected output. Okay, one by one. So let's do it. Now the very first thing, I would like to set a font of that. What would I like to set? I would like to set a font. The font should be of, let's say I'm using Georgia. You can use single quote, double quote, anything is fine. Georgia. And I would like to keep the font size to 24. That is one thing. The next thing, I would like to keep a background color. For background color, I have to simply say BG, background color parameter, and I'm going to say I would like to keep the background color white. Now the text has to be in the foreground color, so I am saying foreground, like background, foreground color should be blue. Okay, simple. Now let's run it. So every step you are doing, just step by step run. So did we get it, the expected output? So let me open the image. So this is the image. So the expected output, if you see, the label is still touching the white window, the title. If you see, there's a gap here, and here there's no gap. So how do I create a gap? To create a gap, remember, this is our x-axis, y-axis. The height is the y-axis, the width is the x-axis. Now I would like to give some padding. Padding means what? Anytime you hear the word padding, means a space, the outer space. So I have to give some padding space in the y-axis. Y means what? Height. X means what? X means what? X means width. So in the y-axis I have to give some gap or padding. So for that, here in the line number 14, I am going to simply say pad y equals to, and I'm going to give some gap. Let's say, let me give it 20. 20 means what? 20 pixels. 20 means what? 20 pixels. Okay, so I've got some gap into my app. So let me run it now. Now if you see, did we achieve what we need? Look at this. So we got some gap here. So yes, we have achieved. Now the next thing we have to do is create a label for select a city. The select city is nothing but a label that we have to create. Because it is a label, we can reutilize the code that we have already created for the header. We'll simply copy this and paste it here. Only thing, we have to change the variable names. So here, this is a label, right? Select city underscore label. Got it? And then I also need to change this to pack it, right? The same variable we have to pack it. So all done. Now let's run it and see how it is appearing. Now it is more or less appears like the same. Reason being, we did not change the input of the text, which has to be select city, and then we also need to decrease the size. Let's say I would like to keep it to 50. Okay, and I don't want this background color white and blue, I want it black in color. So let me remove rest of it. Okay, the same code, just I have removed this background white and foreground blue. I have removed it and changed the value of this and this. All same. Now let me run this now. What happened? The select city has appeared as per our expected one. Do you see? It has appeared. The next thing in our coding is creating a drop down box. So how to create a drop down box? To create this drop down box, we have to use another class from the Tkinter library. So the class is very simple. I'm going to say from Tkinter import ttk. Okay, ttk is the next class that we are going to use. Okay, Tkinter toolkit. So ttk. So in this ttk, this kind of a drop down, extra graphical items are present. So we are using that. So here I'm going to create select underscore city underscore drop down. So this is a drop down box. Okay, equals to, I'm going to use the ttk class dot drop downs are known as combo box, and this has to be created again inside the root. So you can see pretty well the similar kind of syntaxes are repeating. Okay, but here what happens, I have to show some drop downs, some values. Let's say Mumbai, Pune, different cities I would like to show. Now for that, I'll create a cities variable equals to, I'm going to create some list I'll create, and inside that I'm going to say, let's say Bengaluru, first one, then let's say Mumbai, second one, like that. How many number of different cities you would like to keep? Let's keep it Pune, let's keep it Goa, let's keep it Delhi. So here I have just created a list variable. Okay, list variable containing all different cities. Now this combo box also will allow you to type your own city. It will not just restrict you to use only these cities, but you can also type it. I'm going to show you. Here I'll use something called values parameter, and in the values parameter I'm going to pass the cities. Okay, simple. Now the select city drop down, I would like to pack it. So select city drop down dot pack. You can pretty much copy paste the above items. Okay, above items, so that it appears fine. And then I would like the font should be in this size, a little smaller size, and let's make it to maybe 10 should be fine. Yeah. Okay, so let's see it how the output is appearing. Let me stop this. Okay, so this is how it is appearing. Now if you see, the cities have come. So now what we have done, we have created the drop down, and also it will allow you to type your own. I said, it will also allow you to type and also select the relevant city names that you have provided here, or else people can also type it. So this we have achieved. The next thing in our list is to create this get weather button. So right now we have created a drop down. We understood how to create a label, how to create a header. Now we will create a button. To create a button, it's again simple. All I have to do, so the button name will be get weather, right? So I'm saying get weather button equals to tkinter dot button class. Inside that, again the same kind of formatting, we'll use root. It should be inside the root, and the button should have a text saying get weather. This text is nothing but this one. Okay, get weather, this inner text. So text is equal to get weather, and if you like to have a font size or something, you can just copy paste. So let me copy paste the 15th one. comma, paste it. Okay, so I got everything done. Next I have to pack it. So get weather dot button dot pack, and same pad y equals to, we'll give little less space, pad y is equal to 10. So all our coding has been done. Let me run this here and see if it is appearing or not. So you can see it has given me the options like this, and it also gave me a button, get weather. Now the next thing comes to our mind, okay, we got the front end design fine, but it is still not capable to get the data from an API. So how do you link the API? How do you call the moment somebody clicks on something, clicks on this button, it's supposed to capture the data from an API. So we are getting introduced to a new topic. I'm going to teach you the next thing. How will you make this button capable? So let's see that. Now for this, we have to add another line of code in the line number 24, another syntax we have to add, that is called command. Now what this command will do, using this command we can call a function which will do the job. So what is the function here? We would like to call the API which can fetch the data for us. So here we are calling a function. What we are doing using this command, we are actually calling a function. So let me create a function called get underscore weather. What is the function name? Get underscore weather. Now just to differentiate, you simply write func, function get underscore weather. So we are calling this particular function over here using command. Now it should be encapsulated by the parenthesis. All done. Now let's see, how do you really how do you really call this function underscore get weather? Have you created a function for it? No, we haven't created a function. We'll go to the top, complete top after the import, and here we will define the function. So the function is func function underscore get underscore weather. Ensure this function name is exactly matching with what you have typed. Okay, if not, the better option is to copy this, go here, so that you don't make any spelling mistake, just to avoid the spelling mistakes. Okay, so I copy pasted properly. Now let's go to the top and start writing the function. Now the moment somebody hits on the button, the moment anyone hits on this button, it should come to the line number 5 and do the rest of the job. So before we call the API and all of that, let's simply think if it is really coming here or not. Let's see that first. So here I am saying print came to the function. It should print. If it is coming to the function, then it should print came to the function. So let's run it now. Oh, okay, so it has come. Now let's say I'm going to say select a city called Mumbai and click on get weather. Now the moment I hit on get weather, the output should print came to the function. Okay, let's see. So you can see the moment I'm hitting on the button, it is coming to the line number 5 and then 6 and printing this came to the function. Getting it? So you have understood how to enable your button so that it can do some job using the command parameter and calling in the specific function. Let's go up to the top and start defining this function. Here our main purpose is to call what? I need to get what the user has typed in this, or what the user has selected in the drop down. That is our main job, right? If he's selecting Mumbai, then Mumbai should come. If he's selecting any other city, then that specific name should come. So for that, I'll create a variable called city underscore, or simply say city equals to, where the city is there inside the drop down dot get function. So that means it is going to get whatever values there in the drop down, it is going to get and keep it in the variable called city. So let's print this city and see if the whatever value we are selecting, is it coming or not. Let's print it. Okay, for example, I'm going to select Delhi. Okay, Delhi and get weather. Is it printing Delhi? Yes. So that means this function is working perfectly fine. So what are you really trying to achieve here? The moment user selects a city name and hits on get weather, we actually wanted to show the current temperature of the city. The current temperature of the city. Let's say I'm going to select any other city. For that city, the moment I hit on get weather, it should show me the current temperature of the city inside the app. Now for that, we have to use a site called open weather map org. This is the open weather map org is a site using which I can do API calls. Simply type open weather. This should be your home page. Now this site contains what? The different city temperatures. So in this site, if you see, I can also type, for example, London, if I'm saying, and hitting on search. This site tracks some real-time data and tells you what is the current temperature of a given city. Let me select Great Britain, and you can see it is actually pulling the data. Now, what is an API? Using API, I want to get this data into my application. Using the API, this is the graphical user interface. Now I don't need a graphical user interface, rather I just need this data to appear on my application somewhere here. Okay, so that is why we'll be using an API. Now once you are here on the home page, simply follow the instructions, you will be able to do it. Simply what you do, click on this API. Once you click on the API, scroll down, and there is something called current weather data. Similar way, there are other things also available, hourly forecast, daily forecast. So we don't need all that. For this example, we will just focus on current weather data, and there is something called API doc here. Simply click on this. Okay. So once you are here on this page, on the right hand side, because we would like to fetch the data using city names. So there is a link here called city name. Click on this specific link. The moment you click, something is going to appear on your left hand side window. Here I am going to use this specific link to access my data. Okay, now what is this link? Let me copy this link to a notepad. Let me paste it here. So this is how the link appears. Do you see? This is how the link appears. So this is a API. What is a API? API is nothing but it's a URL to fetch backend data. It's just an URL to fetch backend data. Now if you closely look at this URL, it tells you, hey, you have to provide the city name as an input. What is the city you would like to get it for, and you also provide me the key. Your user key is nothing but password. Remember, anywhere you find this API key is nothing but kind of a password, kind of a authentication it do. So who is accessing the data? So for that, your password you should provide. Now how do I get this API key? Let's go back. First of all, you must sign in. For example, if you see, I have signed in. My name is there here. You see Rakesh. So first you need to sign in. Once you sign in, couple of default API key you can generate on your own, or by default on this page. Once you click on API key, you will see the key. Let me click on this API keys. So here you can see I have an API key. So I'll copy this API key. Let's go to the notepad. Slowly we will do it, okay, so that we get an understanding. So API key is nothing but this one. So it is saying you have to provide me two inputs. One is the city name. What if I'm going to manually write it? Let me write something called, let's say, London. And let's say in the API key, I'm going to copy paste that value. So now here is my entire URL. So let me copy this URL, go to the browser. If I'm going to enter this is the API URL, right? With a specific input, London, and my key, my password. I'm going to delete this password post use, but again, you will have your own just by going to open weather. It is free. So just use the free one. You can to learn and exercise. So if I hit enter, will it get the data for me? Let me see. If I hit on enter, did I get the data? Yes, I got the data. Now remember, the data that comes out of an API are generally the server data. What is this data? This is a server data. Server data. Getting it? So this is how the server data has come. Now the server data contains multiple things. For example, if you see, the temperature is here, but why did it say 290.74? It should come in degree Celsius, right? That means there is something we have to do with the URL. It is pulling in a Fahrenheit. I want in degree Celsius. Now for that, simply go back and click on the current weather. You remember, right, how we came here? Then we clicked on city name. Now in this one, if you slightly scroll down, there is something called units and there is something called learn more. Just click on this. Now here there is documentation says for temperature in Celsius, use units equals to metric. For temperature in Fahrenheit, use units equals to imperial. So here we need in degree Celsius. So I'll copy this. go back to my notepad, and here simply use a ampersand. It's more like connecting the same URL, but you are connecting it. So if I copy this, go back to my browser, last time we got 290, right? Now if you see, because this is an extended URL with certain things been added to it, if I hit on enter, if you see, this has given a different data and the temperature is coming in 17.84. Getting it? 17.84. So here there are two things we have captured in our notepad. One is the URL. This is known as API underscore URL. And the next thing, we have got the API key. Let's go to the PyCharm and start drafting it. Let me remove this print. And here the first is API underscore key equals to, what is the key? Here is the key. So let me copy this, and you have to put it in double quote because this is just a string. Okay. All right. Next thing, I need the API URL. So this is my API URL. So all this we are doing for learning purpose. Okay. For learning purpose we are doing. So API underscore URL equals to, now remember, when you are putting such a long this one, it has to be kept always in a double quote. Okay, double quote. Here what we have done, we have modified this London. Do you see? We have modified this London. So I will keep it like this, and then API ID. This is the API, right? So I will delete it, and I'm going to keep it like this. And here I'll use something called format string. So why we are using a format string? Because here the city name has to come from a variable. I don't want to punch in a default city. So every time as per the user selection, the city should automatically come here. So that's why I'm putting in curly braces and writing the variable name city. And that's why we are using the format string called F. The moment you write F, inside your string, you can define your variables. That is why we are writing this format string or F. Now here I will pass the API key variable. Done. So finally our API URL looks something like this, which contains the city variable and API key variable. Okay, instead of hard coding it, you are putting a variable. So done. Now the next thing comes, Rakesh. In your Google Chrome, you had this Google Chrome, so you have copy pasted this link and hit on enter, and you got the data. But here in Python, we don't have a browser as such at the moment, right? And I want to get it in a code format. So I want to get everything in the code format. So how do I get this in the code format is the question that comes to our mind. So let's go to the end, hit on enter. For this, we will use another, see, so many libraries we are using. Another one is called import request. There's a library called import request, and also we have to deal with JSON data. JSON means what? JavaScript object notation. So can you give me an example of a JSON data? The one you saw. So this is a JSON data coming from the server. JSON data means it will always have a curly braces, start with a curly braces, ends with a curly braces. So this is a JSON data which has a key and value, key and values. This is a key, this is a value. Okay, this is a entire JSON data. So let's go back, and here what we are doing, we have to use two different libraries called request and JSON. So make a note of these two libraries that we are getting introduced to. Okay, request and JSON. Now let's go to the end, hit on enter, and I would like to get the data. So this is nothing but my server data. What I'm getting the server underscore data equals to, I'll use this request library dot, and I want to get the data from the server. From which server? From this API URL, right? From this API. So I'm passing this API URL. So now remember this line number 11, what it does. The line number 11 is nothing but it is requesting data from the server. The server is nothing but API URL. It is going to API openweathermap.org server and pulling the data as per our inputs. So we are passing the data to get some data. So here the data will be there in server data variable. Now I would like to print this server data. So how will you print? So printing is done in a different way. How it is done? You have to get it in JSON format first. So what I will do to print this data, I will say server underscore data underscore JSON. JSON means what? This is JSON. Okay, starting with the curly brace. So while the data is coming in Python, it comes in a very different format, in a very complex format, we have to first convert into this JSON format. So the browser is automatically doing the job for you. In the behind the scene, it is automatically converting the server data to JSON format. But here in Python, we have to write another line of code, pretty simple. So equals to, I will say JSON. So I would like to convert it, right? So I will say server data dot JSON. So it will convert that server data into JSON format. Now if you print this, print server data JSON. So do it, okay? Only when you do it, you will get an understanding. So let the app start. Let me select some city, Pune, get weather. So what is happening? It has started printing the entire data. Do you see? Till here, right? If you copy paste the data, okay, apart from the, this is how the data is coming. The format is the same format it is coming. Okay. So this is the JSON data we have got by writing .json. But what happens? It is not easy to read. Are you able to read the data? It is not very perfect, very human friendly. It is not human friendly. Now let's say I would like to make it human friendly to read the data. So how do I make it human friendly? It is pretty simple. So I'm going to create a variable called human friendly server data underscore JSON. The same thing, I'm just writing a word called human friendly. To make it human friendly, I have to simply write a code called JSON dot dumps. So what this dumps will do, it will convert it to a human friendly data. So where the data is contained currently, server data dot JSON variable contains our data, right? Comma, I'll put some indent, some space so that it looks pretty. So if I'm going to print now, print human server data JSON, human readable format. If I'm going to rerun it, okay, the app has appeared. Now look at it, how the data is going to appear now. Let me select Delhi and hit on get weather. So you can see how the data is nicely formatted. Now this becomes quite easy to read, isn't it? Let's copy this output to a notepad. Okay, so I'm going to copy this output to a notepad. Now if you see, is it not very easy? For example, if I ask you to find the temperature, you can easily find it. Okay, here is the temperature, Rakesh, here is the temperature, 34.05. So can you tell me what is the pressure? So it becomes quite easy. Rather than reading this kind of a data, it becomes quite easy to read by converting into a human readable format. Okay, so I got the human readable format just for understanding purpose. Otherwise, there is no need of these two lines. Okay, I don't need this data. I just need the JSON data, which is there in this variable. Now the question comes, how do I print? The question comes, how do I print the data into my app? Here, somewhere here, I would like to print the data. First of all, let's capture the data into a variable. So how to capture the data? Let me create a variable here called temperature. I'm creating a variable called temperature here. This is to capture the data. Okay. The server data underscore JSON contains what? Remember this. If I ask you what it contains, you will say, Rakesh, this contains this entire data, this kind of a data. It contains everything. Now, out of this, I need only the temperature. That means you have to write a code to find where the temperature is residing. For example, if you see the temperature is residing here. So how do I target that one? We are going to learn here. Now, next thing I'm going to write the code for that. I'm going to say temperature. So until here, it is just pulling the data, entire data. Here we are filtering out our data. So I'm going to create a variable called temp equals to what is that contains entire JSON data, server data.json. This variable contains everything, right? This variable contains everything. Inside that, inside this data, there is something called weather. There is something called main. Okay, there is something called main. So simply I'll copy this. Within the square bracket, I'm saying main. Now inside this, there is something called temperature. So I'm going to copy this temperature. So that's why I printed it in human readable format. So it becomes easy for us to understand how the branching is done. So in the main data, there is something called in the JSON entire data, there is something called main, and inside that main, there is another component inside the main is called temperature. So for that, to get into that point, you have to simply say like this. You have to print something like this within the square bracket. This gives you the data. Let's print it and see if the data is coming or not. First of all, So I'm going to say temperature and let's rerun it. Okay, now let me select some of the city, let's say Bengaluru, get weather. So now it is saying 30.61. So the temperature is coming or not? Yes, it is coming. We got what we need. Now the next thing comes to our mind, Rakesh, how do I print it within the app? That is the next thing that comes to our mind. How do I print it within the app? Okay, now to print this, so we don't have to print it here. So let me delete this. Now to print it, let's scroll down. Below this weather button, I would like to print it. So I'll create a label here. So I'm saying output. I'm creating a label called output underscore label equals to, again the same thing goes on, Tkinter dot label. Here it has to be there inside the root, and the text has to be blank because the text has to come from where? The text has to actually come from the top. The text needs to come from this function. It should return the data to this text, isn't it? It has to return the data to this text. So I'll leave it here. I'll just set the font and size and all that. So I'll say font equals to 15. This should be fine, right? So I'll select the font of the result, how that should appear. Okay, and then okay, so this much we have written. We'll go to the top. We'll not pack it here because if you pack it, the moment you launch the application, it is going to appear. That blank box will appear. We don't want the blank box to appear. So I'll not pack it here. Generally, when you pack it, it shows you in the application, right? I don't want to show it. Only when the result comes, that's where it should show, not while launching it. Let me show you the difference. For example, if I'm going to say output label dot pack and I'm going to give it a pad y equals to 10. If I do this and run the code, now if you see in this one, the moment even though before selecting, there's some blank box is coming here. Do you see? Small blank box is coming. So I don't want to be packed initially. So what I will do, I'll cut this entirely. I'll go to the top and I want to pack it somewhere here. Okay, here I would like to pack it. Now before packing, I have to send the data. So the data is there in the temperature variable, right? So how do I send the data to what? Output label. So here I will say output label dot config. There is something called config function, and here what I would like to do, I would like to send the data. So which data I would like to send? Temperature. And then once it goes, it should pack. Now look at it. Look at the output, how it is coming. If I'm running this, see the label did not come. Now let me select, let's say Bengaluru, get weather. Line 10, Rakesh user, there's something wrong. Okay, I got it. What is wrong? So here what I will do, I have to pass to the text parameter, right? We are passing it to the text parameter because text parameter we have left it blank here, right? So that's why we have to pass it to the text parameter and say temperature. Now let's run it. Let me stop this and run it. So the app has appeared and I'm going to select, let's say Bengaluru, get weather. So you can see the output has come 30.61. Getting it? 30.61. The output has finally appeared. Now I would like to add few sentences. Let's say I would like to say temperature colon 30.61, right? Temperature colon. So how do I do that here? Is pretty simple. Here I'll use the F string and I'm going to say temperature. Let me minimize this and I'm going to say temperature colon and then curly braces. I'll use that variable temp variable. Let's delete it. So let me show you the final format. So what we are doing, we are simply saying output level config text equals to format temperature. Okay, I have to use this. Okay, so now it is fine. Now if I run this, let's see how the output is coming. So you can see the app has appeared. I'm going to select some city, hit on get weather. Now it looks pretty good, right? Temperature 22.99. Now let me ask you, what if I would like to have some 4 important data, for example temperature, then we would like to have temperature, let's say I would like to have feels like, I would like to show pressure, humidity. These are a couple of four to five different points I would like to have. Okay, all of this I would like to have. So how to write it? So let's go back to our code. Instead of one data, I would like to show multiple data. So what is the next thing? The next thing, so that's why this pretty format of the JSON is important, so that it becomes easy. So I would like to see feels like. Okay, let's create a variable called feels like, or simply say feels equals to the same thing. It will, I can copy paste, and here it should be feels like. Copy this. So most of the work will be copy paste once you know how things are working. Feels like, so it has come perfectly fine. Okay, go next. Next thing, what I want temperature minimum. So let me create a variable called temp min equals to, again copy paste the above code, and here it should say temp min, right? So I'll remove this and going to copy this. Okay, now the same thing, let's do it for uh, temp max. Okay, I want temp max, so let me copy this. Temp max equals to, again copy this, and I think we can simply say max here. Got it? Now what is the next thing I want? Pressure. So I'll say pressure, create a variable called pressure equals to, copy paste this entire thing, and here I'm going to say pressure. Pretty simple. Hit on enter. What else we need? We need humidity. So let's copy this humidity equals to, and the same thing we'll copy paste and just change it to humidity. So that way it finds the required values. So all the variables are there. Now inside this config, right? Inside this config we have to write. Now let's copy this one several times into our code. So paste, I'm going to paste, copy this, paste, again go here, hit on enter. Same thing you need to repeat. Okay, this one I have to repeat it for rest of the things. So now I have copied it multiple times. Now let's do one thing, let's change the values to the variables that is holding. For example, temperature is held by temperature variable, fields is held by fields variable, so I'm going to change it to fields variable, and the same thing, it should be temp underscore min variable. Now this should be temperature underscore max variable, and this should be pressure, and this should be humidity. Okay, same way you change the text you would like to. So feels like, it's feels like, feels like, and then this should be temperature underscore min, and then you can say temperature hyphen max, however you want. Okay, so here I'll say pressure, and here I'll say humidity. Getting it? So the code is ready. Let's run it. If there's any problem, we'll debug it. Okay, so the app has appeared. Let me select Bengaluru, get weather. Now you can see your final output has come. Temperature, feels like, temp min, temp max, pressure, humidity. Rest of the things have appeared perfectly fine. So finally we got what we need. You can still do lot of modifications, lot of designing you can do, but again this is the conceptual or the fundamental things behind the scene, how your code will work and show you the data that you need. Okay, for example, I would like to have here the temperature should say degree Celsius. So how do you add it? Simply here before this I'm going to say, I don't know, degree Celsius, or you can say C symbol or something like that. Okay, so percentage, right? Humidity should be, let's say, percentage. So based on that you can make multiple modifications, and show the data. Bengaluru get weather. So you can see how it is percentage degree Celsius. So like that you can add. So a lot of modifications can be done. For example, I would like to create a frame with a border. Now I would like to create some border here. Okay. So how do I create a border? Let's see it around our output. And another thing, we are seeing some kind of a space here. Let's remove that. So this is coming because of this last lesson. Let's remove it. Now I would like to create a frame. So this label I would like to keep. I mean this is coming in the label, right? This output is coming in the label. I would like to keep a border around this. Okay, I would like to give some kind of a border, or would like to rather keep it inside a frame. So for that, let me create a variable called output underscore frame equals to Tkinter dot frame. There is something called Tkinter dot frame. Okay, so using this function, I can create a frame. So how that frame? So the frame should be kept inside the root. Okay, and the frame has got couple of important parameters. For example, highlight background color. I would like to keep let's say light green. Okay, light. I don't know if this will work. So light green, and then comma. I would like to also keep the highlight thickness parameter equals to, let's keep it 5. Okay, 5 thickness. So this is the frame we have created. Now I want this label to be kept inside the frame. So instead of writing root here, I would like to keep it inside the output frame. Okay, getting it? So I've simply removed it and said output frame. Now on top of that, we have written packing we were doing on the top, right? In the functions, I'll remove that, and I'm going to paste it here. Because this padding will not happen because it is not in the root, it is always in the frame. What we will do, we'll pack the frame on the top. Okay, so here I will say output underscore frame dot pack. That's simple. Okay, so let's run it and see how this one is working. Okay, so this has come. Let me select the city, let's say Mumbai, get weather. Now you can see there's a light green color border is coming. Do you see? Okay, so you can change your color. So finally we have got the border. This frame is will not appear until unless we are getting the results from the API. After that only the light frame is appearing. Getting it? And inside this frame, this label is there. Now the question comes for the header that we have on the top. What if I would like to have a border for the header? Do I need to every time use a frame and do like this? Is there a simple way available? Yes. So let's see that. What is the simple way? So for this, let's scroll down. Now let's come to the header part. Now in this header part, it is only giving simple box like that we have seen. I would like to add a border. So for that we can try some of the other parameters called, there is something called BD for the border parameter, and let's say I would like to keep it as 2. Okay, and let's run it. Okay, one by one we will see. Border equals to 2. If I say this, so do you see any kind of a border appearing? Not yet, right? No. Okay, for this we will align with another parameter, comma, sorry, let me minimize this. Here, yeah, here I will put another comma, and then I would combine with another parameter called relief equals to solid. So it will give some solid appearance, like a 3D appearance it will give. So let me run this now and let's see. Okay, so the border has appeared, right? The border has appeared in black in color. What if I want red in color? I want this to be in blue in color. Let's say I want this to be blue in color or red in color or some pink color, something like that. So what if I want in that color? How do I do it? So let's see. Now let's use some other parameters. Let's say there is something called highlight background. Okay, highlight background, and I want to give, let's say, red, comma. I'll also use something called highlight thickness is equals to, let's say, 5. Okay, we'll just try a few combinations. Let's see if it is appearing or not. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, so it has come, right? It has come with a red color, and then it has some black border also along with that. Okay, so to remove it, let's do one thing. Let's completely remove this, and then let's try, instead of red, let's say pink, some light pink color. Okay, let's run and see. So all these parameters you can utilize to create various different looks. Okay, you can see there's a pink border has come, slightly light in color, but I think that should be fine. Okay, so dark pink. Let me try dark pink and run this. There is nothing called dark pink, or else simply say blue. I think blue would look good. So I'm saying blue and run it. Okay, so now, yeah, now it is looking better. So this is also another way of you creating a border around certain element. So you can see I've created a border around this, or else the other way is to use a frame. So multiple different ways that you can create. Okay, so now you have learned. Now you can design lot many things. You can add lot many elements inside this, and you can think of a very complex app. Instead of showing the data, for example, here when I am selecting Goa, so it is showing the data in a single text box. What if you want to create a tabular format where in the table there are borders available, and then inside that you want to show temperature, feels like, and on the right hand side you would like to show, or you would like to create a specific element here in this window with some images in the background and then show the values. You can think of lot many things. There is no limit to this, and with all of those things you would like to create an app which can show in a very different, which can give a different appearance, right? So we can do it. Only thing I would emphasize on this video is to remember what are the important key points in the video. Okay, so what are the key points that you have learned in this video? How to write a function, how to enable the buttons, right? The how to use Tkinter.frame, what is that for? Tkinter.label, what is that for? When you say dot pack, what happens? When it comes to image, you have to say dot place. You have to use relative height and relative width, what is that? So once you remember all these important points and practice couple of times, it should come in your fingertips. That means when you put your hand on your keyboard, this command should automatically come. So those many times of practice you have to do, so that things will automatically come. You don't have to really remember, but keep practicing. Once you practice, it will anyways automatically will come while you are typing. So this code is entirely a huge code we have written. Now for a beginner, when you show this, they will be astonished as to how did you write such a big code using Python. But again, as a Python developer, it is quite easy. Couple of things, once you know how the libraries do work, what are the different functions are available to use, then it becomes quite easy to draft such an application and show an output to anybody who would like to see it. All right, so this is a basic app. Again, it can be customized in many different ways, and we can learn many things in the upcoming videos. So guys, please stay tuned and do comment once you have watched this entire video. Try to comment something so that I feel great to read those comments that you have typed, so that I understand the entire amount of time that you have spent, was it valuable or not. So please do leave a comment from your end. I would love to read them, and do subscribe to the channel in case you have not subscribed. We are going to come up with more such interesting contents which are going to add a lot of knowledge in your learning journey. So please do subscribe and give it a like to this video. Thank you. Let's meet once again in the next content. Till then, take care. Bye bye. So thank you guys for watching. Your support is very much required. Please do subscribe to the channel and leave a comment on every video that you are watching. Simply say done. Give it a like and do share with your friends who would like to learn from our channel. Thank you again. You have a great day.